They told me, "We're scared of the window man. He looks at us at night and sometimes speaks. He just asked, 'Are you alone?'" I'm a 15-year-old female, and I live in a smallish neighborhood. My room is on the second floor of the house. It's the only main room up there. The other rooms are a closet with access to the attic, and a spare room opposite of the closet door. All doors are on one end of the second floor, and the windows are on the opposite. Near the windows in my room, I have a large chair. It's red and soft, so I sit there often. When I'm in the chair, my right side is to the windows. Anyways, here's where it gets weird. For the past few weeks, on and off, I've been hearing what sounded like tapping or walking on the roof near my window. It's kind of soft, so when I'm watching Netflix or I have the fan on, it can be a little hard to hear. But it's happened at least a handful of times that I'm aware of. Just a few minutes ago, it sounded sort of like a ladder being rested nearby and a few taps and steps. I got up and turned the lights out in my room so that I could try and see what's outside. But it was still too dark to see anything. One significant thing that I can think of happened a few months ago. The lights in my room were off, and I was kind of drowsy. I think it was around 11 at night. I was laying down, but sat back up from my bed, which at the time was positioned so I had a slight view of the window. I woke up the rest of the way when I saw what appeared to be kind of a messed up face looking at me. It was sort of droopy, and its eyes were positioned so one was lower than the other. I jumped up and turned around to go get the lights, but by the time I turned back, whoever or whatever it was gone. At the time, I thought it must have been something paranormal. Nothing ever happens where I live, and it looked too creepy and off to be a person. But now, currently, because of what I've been hearing on the roof outside my window, I'm starting to think that what I saw that night might have been a person. Maybe they were wearing a mask or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. I have dogs, but they sleep downstairs in the master bedroom, behind a closed door. Please, if you can give me any advice at all, I'd love to hear it. A note before I begin. My neighborhood isn't exactly well-to-do, and I live on the first floor of a 3-story building. That means the windows face the street, and if the curtains aren't placed right, people can peek in. Due to past experiences with tenants, my dad has placed metal bars over all the windows. Anyways, one day, either in late spring or early summer, when it was hot enough to open the windows, but not hot enough to turn on the AC, my mom was in the house alone, contemplating what to cook for dinner. Her thoughts were interrupted by the doorbell ringing. We usually don't get many visitors, but when we do, they usually call first, or are delivery people. So, my mom inches towards the window to see who's out there, and she sees this middle-aged lady with red hair ringing the doorbell. My mom doesn't know her, and so she doesn't open the door. She just goes back to the living room to put on the radio and continue cleaning. As she's walking back, she hears rustling and turns around. This lady at the doors now shoved her hand into the window by lifting up the screen and was saying, "Antonio? Antonio, are you there?" My mom, understandably, flips her shit and rushes back to the window, tears open the curtain, and looks at the very surprised woman right in the face. What are you doing? The lady doesn't answer because she's looking at my mom like the fear of God has been put into her. Pissed, my mom asks again, what do you think you're doing? The lady finally answers and stammers out that she was looking for her friend that lives there. But my mom wasn't having any of that. No one by the name of Antonio lives here, and even if he did, you're not supposed to do that. The lady eventually accepted defeat and walked away. The event didn't really bother my mom that much because she's a tough old cookie. But why would the lady risk putting her hand through the window? What was she trying to do? Recently, I just went through the most terrifying experience of my life. My mom's single, and she has 5 kids. I'm the oldest. I have 2 little brothers who thankfully weren't around during the time of this story. My 2 younger sisters, though, weren't so lucky. Anyways, one morning I woke up to my little sisters sleeping with me. I found this odd because they had their own room. They never slept with me before, so what's going on? I thought maybe my mom just put them in there or something. I didn't want to wake them up, so I carefully crept out of bed and went down to the kitchen to find my mom cooking breakfast. I asked her, "How come you put the girls in my bed last night?" She looked at me confused and said, "I didn't put the girls in your room." Well, that means they came in there by themselves. I really didn't mind them coming to sleep with me, but still, I wondered why. Eventually, I just brushed it off. And then one day, I asked one of my sisters, "Why are you coming to sleep in my room so much?" And they told me, "We're scared of the window man." All I could think was, window man? What the hell is that? So I asked her what that was, and she said, "He looks at us at night and sometimes speaks." I asked her what this window man would say, and she told me he just asked where Mom was, or "Are you alone?" She said that sometimes he would just sit there and smile all night. Well, needless to say, I told my mom, and she said that she would notify the police. Unfortunately, there really wasn't a whole lot that the cops could do. My sisters were too young to really give a good description of what they saw. So, a few weeks go by, and one day, my little sisters begged me to take them to the park because they were bored. Now, the way the park's set up is there's an entrance on one side where there's streets and houses, and on the other side of the park, there's woods. We were the only ones at the park today, and while I played with them, eventually I got really tired. I sat down on the swings and continued to let my sisters play. I was just sitting there, texting, listening to the sound of their laughter, when, all of a sudden, complete silence. I glanced up and saw my little sisters staring. Their backs were facing me, and they were looking towards the woods. I got up to see what the problem was, and there he was, just standing there, half of his body behind a tree. He looked to be at least 6 foot tall, lots of facial hair. He had dirty boots, and his pants were dirty and ripped, and so was his shirt. By the way he looked, and the faces my sisters were making, I knew this guy was no good. They were so terrified, it made me wonder, was this the window man? My body was frozen, but my mind was telling me to get the hell out of there. I grabbed my sisters and began exiting the park. I guess he knew I was about to run, because before I could even reach the gates, he came sprinting full speed towards us. This was the time for me to run like hell, but I couldn't run as fast as I wanted to because I had 2 children in my arms. So, every time I looked back, he gained more and more on us. At this point, I got scared and began screaming for help. I screamed as loud as I could, over and over, and then I felt everything go black. When I woke up, I was inside of an ambulance being driven to the hospital. Nobody was in there besides me and the paramedic. I didn't see my sisters, so I began to panic again, screaming, "Where are they?" He told me to calm down and that they were completely safe. When we arrived at the hospital, I got treated for a concussion. A man walked into the room with my little sisters and I gave them the biggest hug. He told me that my mom was on the way. Then he told me that the police got the guy who attacked us. He was apparently an escaped convict who'd been on the loose for more than 3 years, and he'd been charged with multiple crimes, including kidnapping and much worse. Then, he said he heard my screams, so he called the cops. When they arrived, I was already on the ground, unconscious. The convict had hit me in the back of the head with a large rock, and my sisters were gone. He said that he saw the convict take them back towards the woods, but he didn't get very far. They caught him inside the woods, near an abandoned cabin. They believed he was going to take them in there, but luckily they made it just in time. I was so relieved that they were safe, but I just hope that that creepy convict doesn't escape again anytime soon. Hey guys, Scary Stories here. What did you think of those ones? I've said before, but I've always found the idea of somebody staring into my window at night really terrifying. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you very much. I really appreciate you listening. If you liked the video, maybe consider giving it a like. If you disliked it, give it a dislike. And, yeah, I'll cut it there for now. I hope you're taking care of yourself, and I hope you're treating yourself well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.